good afternoon to our friends from Bangladesh. Welcome to our second students-only philosophy cafe this year. This one is going to be a little bit special since we have our friends from Bangladesh joining us. So, as you all know, probably the topic of today's conversation will be beauty in, of course, the philosophical context. The topic of beauty has been, again, discussed and mentioned in philosophy for as long as philosophy has existed. It's a very complex question that most of the times comes off as even too simple to think about. The most notable, or I would say the most notable name for studying of beauty is aesthetics, which again has different meanings or definition depending on who you ask. And that's probably the main reason why this is such an interesting topic to talk about, because one of the beliefs is that it takes on different meanings for every different person. So to start us off, let's talk about the fact that beauty is often how should I say, used hand in hand with the word art. It's most of the times discussed in terms of what makes something valuable and precious rather than just appealing to the eye. I would like people to raise their hand if they want to talk about the correlation between beauty and art, whether it should be looked at as one same concept, or if not, what is the relation between the two? Can one exist without the other? Which one came first, if you want, or just any? Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands, which I find very discouraging. But let me just.
I think that Georgia can say something about it.
I think Jovan Despot raised his hand just now.
Yes, I did. Thank you for the word. So when we discuss about like everything that you basically mentioned now, art and beauty, and actually their connections and what happens with them. Well, my take on it is pretty simple. I think that that beauty is a much wider thing than art, and that art just takes part of it, as well as having something out of that, like which is not beautiful. Like art can be does not have to be beautiful, in my opinion, at least. So I think that the main problem of art is what you haven't mentioned, but I think that the basically with everything, the biggest problem, and especially with art, is objectivity. Is art objective or is art subjective? I think it will be like really simple to just say, oh, it's subjective. It just depends on the like, to use that beauty is in the beholder of eye theory, but like there must be something more. I also would like, so now I'm just brainstorming all my opinions on art. Like there is no like a certain pathway that I'll take and just talk about one topic. Then also I'm interested in correlation of art with good. Why? No, not art, of beauty with good. Why? Because even from the Greek times we have a term kolokagatia, which actually tells us about everything that one can't go without the other. Like if a man is good, he will be pretty or beautiful, and if a man is ugly, he must be evil or something like that. Like not this extreme, but that point indeed exists in ancient philosophy. So that's my opinion. Maybe I haven't like gave you many answers to your questions, but at least I've asked some questions which can be also be the topic of today's talk. Thank you.
Yes, that's true. These are all, you've asked a lot of questions and you've given us opinions on most of them. But I will have to ask you though, you said that art doesn't have to be beautiful and that you are aware, as I understood, of a lot of art pieces or artworks that aren't beautiful. Can you help us understand what beautiful really means to you? How will you say something's not, what does it mean when something is not beautiful yet it's art?
Oh, well, beautiful, like I can't define it. Like what the feeling we get when we see something beautiful, I just simply, I can't say that's that feeling you'll feel, I don't know, like butterflies in your stomach or something like that. I can't do that. But why did I say that art doesn't have to be beautiful? Because sometimes the art can make us realize even the bad sides or ugly sides of the world, or something, or some specific object or some specific human trait that we maybe didn't realize up until that point, and then we that moment of realization is part of art, but it's not beautiful. It's not the feeling of I'm happy that I have this feeling. I just realized that actually maybe I'm happy I realized that. Now I feel like my eyes are open. But that's not just a pleasant feeling. That's more like I'm glad I know this, but maybe I didn't have to. That's that feeling, and that's not beautiful in my opinion. But that can be art. There are art works of art which tell us something bad about the world. Like probably there are numerous of them, but I wouldn't call them beautiful.
Thank you. So your definition of beautiful is strictly appealing to the eye. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, appealing to our senses.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
And I think you mentioned something really, really interesting thought, which I think we all can agree on, that there is sometimes art in showing the ugly, not just the pretty. I think Tanvir raised his hand.
Yeah, I totally raised my hand. The thing is, there are two questions, right? First, there was, is art possible without beauty, or how do they correlate? Without one, another can exist. The second one was Zovan said about something about beauty. I really don't want to go far. Just skip, real flashback a couple of minutes when we said the examples of beautiful, right? That was very diverse. Some said, I like to see a branch of trees. Some said, I read a lot of books, which I found it beautiful. I said our personal feeling to be beautiful. Now, how can you justify our personal feelings with the art? So my personal feeling to being accepted, it's beautiful, right? But is it an art? It's not an art. So we can totally see, yeah, beautiful does exist before the art. See, another case you can see, think as like in the primal times, all right, when I guess art even didn't existed. So you do see, then people didn't find anything beautiful apart from art. Now, second question where we are saying there's someone saying that philosophical is something ugly, philosophical is something beautiful, or something like that. Now there's a question stands. Is beauty an absolute thing? You are saying justifying something as beautiful, but it's only relative, right? I found something to be beautiful that couldn't be ugly for another person's perspective, definition. So while we're defining something as general beautiful, absolutely beauty, that thing is pretty much questionable, I think. Because if we can say, yes, this thing is beautiful based on this certain group of population, you cannot say anything as absolutely beautiful. And another thing for beauty is beautiful is not only like existing or like not only limited to something related to art or something related we can see an appearance. One of my junior friends recently asked me that many people are not that good in appearance. They have a huge personality, very attracting personality. Can that be beautiful? I said, why not? There is actually no definition of beautiful ever written. It should be measured by eye. So if you measure this thing by eye, what do you want to say? The blind people can't feel anything beautiful, or the beautiful term doesn't exist for them. So the main points I really want to clear here is, yes, beautiful is much more wider than just seeing or just correlating with art. Another point that like Milos first started, yes, art could be something with like art is very much depending on aesthetics, like what people generally, by generally I mean most of the people generally acknowledge as beautiful. For example, Mona Lisa of Leonardo da Vinci, all right, many people find it beautiful. That's why you usually call it beautiful, but there are tons of people who don't like it. So even the painting of Mona Lisa isn't an absolute beautiful thing. That's the thing I really want to say. Thank you very much for giving me the mic.
Thank you very much for your answer. Although I do want to ask you, if you said that something, and I think a really good point, something I agree with. You said that your personal feeling towards an object or a artwork doesn't really make it art just because you feel it's beautiful. What does make it art? What do you think? Is there a certain criteria, an objective criteria they should meet to qualify for art? Or is it, if it's not your personal feeling, what is it?
I think that even the word term art, it's somewhat totally like person to person varies. It's totally personal. Even if you see, for example, see one of my classmates, friends, draw very good. Her painting is very pretty. All right, very good. I see the painting. He painted a city somewhat like Dhaka. That's our capital. And I found it very engaging, very beautiful. I will say, oh, look at it. It's a piece of art. But the very same painting, when you will show to any, when I give it to a master painter, a professional painter in our country, he said it's good, impressive, but not good to saying it's an art, not good enough to being an art, a masterpiece. So I think you got my answer, right? It's totally depending on your personal circumstances. Yes, there are some qualities which basically people generalize as same, like people neurologically feel symmetry, patterns to be very much beautiful, but that really doesn't even totally defines what makes an art art. It's totally depending on a person and his point of view.
Thank you. No, yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. I think Usrat was next.
Yeah, so I was noting down everything because I have a tendency to forget. So firstly, the question you asked, that whether I would correlate beauty with art or not. Firstly, I would think that how would I define art? Now, art is something I believe is an expression of artists, of how a person would express themselves. Now, it's up to me to deem it as whether it is beautiful or ugly or not, right? So art is an expression, and art is a way, and this is how I would define art in my point of view. And now, this is how I would move forward with my argument. That is, now this judgment of art, this is how, if I'm perceiving this art, if it resonates with me on a personal level, or if this art resonates with my personal aesthetics, then I believe that this art will, that piece of art will be something I will value. That piece of art will be something that I will find beautiful. I'll just keep it short. That's what I had to say.
Thank you. Now, I'm not sure who was next, but I think it was Nikita.
Okay, I'll talk about when it was first mentioned that not all art has beauty. I disagree with it. Even if the contents of an art are something that makes us feel uncomfortable, or the contents we find disturbing or much violent, or something that makes us upset, I've said that even in setting up that picture or that theme of violence or disturbing contents, it's another kind of beauty. How the artist is expressing the whole, the theme to us. I would say that that whole work of his is another art. So I'll say that all sorts of art has a beauty of their own. Yeah, that's what I like to say.
Thank you. Ivana was next in line, I think.
Yes, I wanted to. I'm gonna touch on the things all you guys said about art and beauty. And I do think that art doesn't need to be beautiful in order to be art. What Jovan said earlier. I think it just needs to. I'm not sure who said it, but it needs to like express the beliefs or whatever of the artist who made it. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to like make it more. The thing I wanted to talk about was like more simple and like closer to us, which is how we perceive human beauty, and like this notion of universal beauty in people, which is basically like a Eurocentric standard of how beautiful someone is. And in today's society, it's like hard to pinpoint what exactly is beautiful, but for like a very long time it's been fair, or like with a narrow nose and a narrow face, and eyes that are like not hooded, or how we would say it. And lately there's these like trends that make it harder for people who look different to look their own way, to like have fuller lips or have a wider nose, or have thicker eyebrows, not have a jaw that's as defined. But these things have been used for trends without the hardships that these people go through for having these traits. And then I guess it's just hard to pinpoint what exactly is human beauty these days to people, because there's just so many ways to express it, and not enough like acceptance in the world for people who like naturally look different. So yeah, that's kind of everything.
Thank you. So personal beauty is something that we should definitely discuss as a I would say something separate from artistic beauty. Now, before we continue, just a reminder that it's much easier for me to track who keeps their hand up if you use the participants tab. There you have a button that quite literally says raise hand. I've seen a lot of people have been using the wave reaction or the clap reaction, and that's also useful, but I would prefer if you could use this one. I think Shobda had the word next.
Yes. For me, beauty is not all about appearance. It's about the confidence in you to accept you, no matter what your skin color is, or how you look, or like how fat you are, or how short you are. It's all about presenting yourself in front of people, like the way you talk, um, your expression to the ethnic community. Like I find it beautiful. It's not always about the skin color or those stuffs. It's about the personality that a person should have, the confidence of talking in front of public, like how to present themselves. I find it beautiful. So basically, this is what I would like to define beauty as, like what I think. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Helena has the word next.
Thank you for the word. I would just like to say that I view beauty as not maybe just something to the eye, but the feeling we get. And I think that there is beauty in everything. So I would like to correlate that to art. I think that you can find beauty in almost every art. There is something beautiful and poetic about a tragic scene being shown, or a violent scene, or anything, not just the things that we usually consider like art, love acts or something like that. So I think that beauty is very much subjective, because if you try hard enough, you can find something that you'll find beautiful, but also it's all a matter of taste. That's it. I don't want to be long.
Very good. Very good.
We have Tara next in line.
Thank you for giving me the word. I just want to go back to art and beauty in art. Art is not supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to make you feel something, whether the person who perceives that art finds it beautiful or not is not something that's usually relevant to the artist. A lot of artists, when they create art, they look at technique and whatever they can to make their art, and a lot of the time that doesn't mean that it has to be beautiful. It just means that it has to have some sort of story, some sort of point, some sort of feeling that it's going to make the person who's looking at it or hearing or whatever, who's perceiving that art, feel something. I understand a lot of people said that they find beauty in feelings. But I think that at least some art that I've seen just made me feel uneasy and not a great feeling, but I still look at it and can appreciate it for what it is and understand that it is something that's art. When it comes to personal beauty, a lot of you talked about how it's in the eye of the beholder, and I completely agree. I just think that society imposes certain beauty standards just so they can sell products and make people a little bit more insecure, and a way to kind of manipulate people in general. But definitely everyone has their own personal standard of beauty, and when they see someone they judge them based on their own personal standard, not really what society wants. But we as people judge ourselves based on what society wants and not our own personal standard, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I will have to point out that it's a bit different to talk about physical, how should I say, talk about beauty standards in people rather than beauty in art, because as we all know, finding something beautiful and attractive has its own, or finding someone beautiful or attractive has its own biological and evolutionary purpose. It's to help reproduction and continue the life of the species. But I wouldn't go that much into detail into what we find attractive, although the point still remains, and it's a solid point, that what we find attractive in other people has been manipulated over the years for various reasons and agendas. But I would like if we could stick to the topic of why we find beauty in things that we don't necessarily want to reproduce with, like paintings or music. That being said, I would like to give the word to Sunčica.
Thank you. I'd like to say something about objective beauty in art. While most things about art come to subjective taste, I think there really is an objective standard to what is beautiful in art. While I certainly don't like Crnjanski's Seobe, it doesn't mean that it is not a beautiful piece of art and it does not have value. And I, as a person who doesn't like it, I can still acknowledge the value and objective beauty of it, even though I don't feel it myself. And I think there is a innate sense of beauty that all humans feel. However, I think we should draw the line between whether objective beauty, even an interesting topic for me is whether objective beauty in art matters all that much, because no matter how beautiful a certain art piece is, if I don't personally like it, I will not care about it. So I wonder what is more important, the emotion that something stirs in us, or its objective, and rather than its objective value. Thank you.
If I don't personally like it, I will not care about it. It's a very thought-provoking thought. I have a problem with this, because I know if you mentioned that it doesn't really matter that much whether something is objectively art or objectively beautiful. I think that's true to some degree. I think everything is, how we perceive art is our own personal choice. But sometimes, I mean, you're aware of existence of awards, for example, in some art departments. And it would be very, I think, chaotic in that world if everyone just, if all the people that are, let's say, for example, this is entirely hypothetical, but if all the people that were in the commission that decided who gets the award we're using the logic, or not the logic, but just the principle, whatever causes me the most intense reaction is the most artistic. I think that would cause a bit of a chaos in that world, which I'm not totally familiar with, but I'm just...
No, I agree with you totally on that part. I just meant it on a personal level, like to a average person, not talking about art contests and stuff like that. Stuff like that, that's where objective beauty literally does matter. I'm talking about everyday life. So we don't really disagree.
I'm glad to hear that, because I wanted to ask you another question. You're the first person in this conversation that used the word objective beauty as something that actually exists. Can you help us define it? Let's say the situation you gave us is if you were today to just be chosen randomly to be in a I don't even know what you call it, a commission that decides who gets an award for the most artistic piece of the year. How would you go about it?
That's very interesting, because I haven't thought that far. But like, I think that objective, like we can't completely grasp objective beauty, and that's why I can't define it. But I think it does that objective beauty exists regardless of humans, like that it is something beyond us, something detached.
So even if it does exist, you couldn't really wrap your head around it.
Yeah. That's about it.
Okay, yeah, that's a very honest.
Like it's a very that's a very difficult topic to talk about. Like, I just think it's just like the truth. I think that an objective truth really does exist, just like beauty exists. It's just that it's so difficult and detached and cold from humans that we can't really wrap our finger around it.
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting thought. Jovan is next in line.
Thank you a lot. So, like, I want to determine a bit more what I want to say before, as well as give my opinions on something the others mentioned. So, I've already said that I think that beauty is much wider term than art. I like to see that there are people who agree with me that art does not have to be beautiful. And I want to talk about the objective beauty, or I think that it doesn't exist in all of that wider term beauty. That it's not that we simply have something innate that our instincts or anything that gives us like the perception of personal beauty. Like I said, for me, beauty is something that is pleasant to my senses. It doesn't have to be everything that's pleasant to my senses, but it certainly is something like that. There are people who would say that beauty is much more than that, or something like that. I won't go into that. But why I think there is no objective beauty in anything besides anything that's discussed. Why do I mean that? People made like objective standards for art. Why? Because they made art. Like art didn't exist before people made it, and when they made it, they of course had something in mind with it, and the other people can learn that and make objective stances on that form of beauty. What do I mean by that? Like people never discuss if, for example, sunsets are beautiful, and just the point. And since it's not discussed, there can't be like stance of multiple people being like formed as an objective thought about it. I think that objectivism is actually multiple, all of the subjective perceptions of something made into a kind of a rule. So objectivism didn't exist before people made it, at least in my opinion. So why does that happen only in art? Because it's discussed. Like we all, not all of us, but most people discuss art, and since they discuss, they need to have some rules. There have to be people who will say, I'm right, see, this is why I'm right, this is the rule of art, it has to, there is contrast in paintings, or there is this harmony in music, or something like that. So they need to make rules in order to be right. You don't need rules to say, to be right if you think sunset is beautiful or something like that. That's why I think there is objectivism only in art. And in personal beauty, on one hand, like someone previously mentioned, there are like people didn't make. I need to clarify this. People didn't make personal beauty, but they made standards for it, and that's what we discuss: standards of beauty. What do we perceive as beautiful, or something like that. So on one end, we have people who want to be the same as the others. Like we share, and that's why like plastic surgeons are so popular nowadays, because everyone wants to look the same. But on the other hand, the big problem is too much acceptance. Like in today's times, people tend to tell everyone that everything is acceptable. You can be whatever you want to be, and sometimes people are just lost. There needs to be right or wrong in order for people to be right. You can't just say everything is okay, do whatever you like, and that will like turn out good. It won't. There needs to be something we should go towards. Not only be yourselves or something like that. There needs to be good in order to be achieved. And that's the problem, as in personal beauty, also in art. For example, I watched a video, like in 2000, some man won award for the best piece of art in some museum. I don't know, what did he do? He turned the lights off and on. And when you ask the like critics, when you would see the critics on that piece of art, they would say, that piece of art really makes us think, is it better if lights are turned on or off, or are we lost, something like that, I don't know. Then they asked the artist who made it, what do you think about your piece of art? He said, well, when I was little, I liked to turn my lights off and on in bathroom while my mom is in it, and it was fun to me, and that's why I made that art. So he made something in a way silly, and the critics just because they wanted to be so like acceptable, they made sense of it, and I don't think that's good in these times. Like that's why I think in past times art was something much more complex, and why we have many more like pieces of art, true art in history than nowadays. Just because today people want to accept everything, and it's just not good. Like that doesn't separate the best from the rest.
Yeah, we understood. Thank you. Tanvir has the word next. Don't forget to unmute your microphone, Tanvir.
Also, here you go. I think, Milos, I got your point of which thing you wanted to mean from the all along, from the very beginning. You wanted to mean something like that. What are the standards we follow to say something beautiful or to make something as art? And where I said that it's very personal, it's a very interpersonal thing. So here's the thing, and there another person said in their previous speeches that when we say that there is something called objective beauty, there is something like static, there is something so objective and a fact that it's beautiful, it's an objective beauty. And here is the thing, and you wanted to know that what makes a thing beautiful, what object trait makes a thing beautiful, right? At first there is like, as we have spoken so far, beautiful, the thing beauty, it totally depends on human's precision. But in generally, there is a huge chunk of people that generalize a certain thing as beautiful. So why it's true? The thing is, you are a painter. You are not a like expressionist painter. You are a professional painter. You paint something which could sell, which would sell at market. Obviously, you paint to express yourself, but not of all of your expressions gonna sell at market, right? A professional painter knows which paintings are gonna sell at market and which are not. So when you make a professional painting, you have some criteria on your mind. All right, if I give this feature or traits to my painting, then it's gonna be beautiful in the eyes of at least 80% or 60 or 70% of the population. So my painting will be sold. Now here's the thing that you wanna know. But I know that yes, there could be something called like objective beauty, but it can be totally measured with something like some characteristics. Here is why. For example, you think, all right, if a car is black, all right, I usually like black cars. Or be more specific, I usually like black Mustang cars. All right, so that's my definition of beauty among the cars. So I generalize beautiful as black and Mustang cars to be beautiful for me. But doesn't it happen normally? Like one day it happened, a sudden car came and you say, oh, look at it, this car is so cool. But you don't know about the car, right? And those traits weren't at your mind. But seeing that thing, you said it's cool. You generalize it as beautiful. So the thing is, even if there's something exists as absolute like beauty or objective beauty, but the thing is, you cannot and totally cannot quantify or measure it or like pinpoint down it with certain questions or certain criteria. Because even you could do like, if you could have done that thing, yes, I have certified these things to be as beautiful or not beautiful, then the thing or fact that sudden beauty and sudden beauty of discovering wasn't exist. Seeing new thing and generalizing it as beautiful could have been exist. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Tanvir. Anya has been waiting for a while.
Well, I want to say that I think the concept of beauty is different for everyone. if I think that something is beautiful, doesn't mean that the rest of you have to think that something is beautiful too. For example, let's take Angelina Jolie, one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful woman in the whole world. I personally do not think that she is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. Of course, it's nice when you see something that looks pleasing, but is that thing actually really beautiful? Do we think the beauty comes from the appearance, or does it represent something more? I think that it's all in the eye of the beholder, and beauty comes and goes. But if we're talking about beauty and art, because we've been talking about that for some time, I think that art is supposed to make you feel certain type of way, and it doesn't have to be beautiful to make you feel something, you know? And art is considered art because it's special in some way, but if we want to connect those two things, art and beauty, if art is special, then we think the beauty is special in some way too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Georgia?
Yeah, so I wanted to address again the question of the objectivity of beauty, and I believe when we talk, for example, right now strictly about art, I think it's something that is that we tend to relativize much more than it objectively should, I think, be done. Because first of all, I don't believe in. It's very hard for a theory to stand when you discuss beautiful, that something can be beautiful or not beautiful, or that something can be art or not art. Because I think the art itself and beauty itself and the universe itself is much too complex for us to divide things so drastically. I think it's just to make us more comfortable in a world we really don't know nothing about, so we can categorize things to be beautiful or not beautiful, which is pretty drastic. And I think it's a better question to ask to what extent something may be called beautiful, and whether that there is like that extent of the absolute. I think it's kind of more of a metaphysical question, but I think that art can be judged, art can be labeled as more or less beautiful, and I think it depends. The most important thing is kind of what Hume would call like experience and empirical importance of art and education also. I think it's it would be nice if we could, like, for example, you can look at the School of Athens by Michelangelo, and for like someone who is not in any way familiar with philosophy, I think the incredible subtlety and incredible representation of the entire antique philosophy in one painting, the way that Plato and Aristotle contrast, the way that their hands are painted and formed, and all of the other faces and philosophers in their like mutual the composition of the painting, the way that they are grouped, in the way that they look, the color of their robes, and how it all relates to like a magnificent representation of the entire philosophy of the antique period. And I think that like someone who doesn't care or is not a fan of philosophy, I think they can look at that painting and be like, there's like a bunch of old people like lying around on a few stairs. But I think that that's not the question of like whether what you think about it. It's about the extent to which you are familiar with art in general, to which you are educated. It's kind of an intellectual component that is also quite often neglected. So I don't think if like my 10-year-old sister sees it, looks at the same painting and finds it not beautiful, and I get this whole thrill about the painting, which I find absolutely brilliant. I don't think our votes, if I can call them, can count the same. And I think in that example, I have a much more, much greater, like, I don't know, I have a much greater competence, yeah, to judge it in a way. But when we talk about those kinds of like masterpieces of art, like historically, I don't think we have a capacity as just as a one person, not at all, but even like as a whole civilization at a certain point to estimate the beauty of those kind of like masterpieces, historical masterpieces, and I think they definitely requires time. But it's something that, we often tend to lately kind of relativize and talk about beauty in the eye of the beholder, especially when we talk about art, and it's something that I'm very sensitive about, and I wouldn't agree with at all.
I want to ask you a question, because you're the first person that I've heard so far that doesn't stand behind the argument that we appreciate what we personally like. And that's something that everyone's been saying. It's all subjective. There are some, someone mentioned some criteria for something, but it all came down to you like what you like. And I personally believe myself to be, how should I say, a bit more proud of being human, and I don't want to believe that we are truly such, I'm not going to use the word dumb, but such shallow creatures that we really can't see value beyond what we personally value. You said that you would be a more competent critic, that your opinion would be more valuable than your younger sisters. If that is the case, don't you believe that there could be the most competent critic? So in that way, whatever he says is art, truly is art, and that's objectively art. If you think that there are opinions that are more valuable and more worthy and more trustworthy than some others, it may not sound like it, but I agree with that. I just want to hear your reasoning on what you think, because you also said there's an intellectual component to evaluating art, not just emotional, not just spiritual. There's also intellectual and cognitive factors to it. What are those? Help put us on the track towards figuring out what art is, what it is beyond how it makes us feel.
It's a great question. Thank you. So, I do believe there is a hypothetical, like universal critic, and I think the ones who come the closest to that would be I think to us familiar like artistic geniuses of our history, but I think that it's kind of romantic and kind of outdated, but I think it's neglected today as something shallow. I don't think it is at all, and I think hypothetically there is some kind of I think those people are the ones who can get the closest to that kind of universal
So what do you think, I'm sorry for interrupting, so what do you think a person like that, the ultimate critic, what do you think he cares about? What are the criteria? What are the boxes that need to be checked?
I think he should be familiar with the when I suggested Hume's theory and mentioned education and empirical value of the empirical when it comes to judging art, there would be by that that universal critic would have to be able to perceive the world as from the eyes and from the perspective of every human being, and to be educated or to be educated at whatever point in history he does live, to be educated on everything and like complete human history and art, and to have that component of like being able to understand and perceive the world through the eyes of every single other human. And I think with that, he can be called the universal critic. And the geniuses that I mentioned not only had like all that, but there is also like to creating art a different component with which I like don't want and didn't prepare to discuss, what it takes to create. This is more of a experiencing beauty and experiencing the beautiful. But yeah, if you are a painter who has looked at paintings all his life and like judged them and assessed them and painted them, I think you have more of a right to say what a beautiful painting is than to someone who can just, say it, because there is like no proof. It's not science, so you can.
Okay, yeah. So you believe it should be approached much like any other, let's say, more sciencey subject. Whoever has the most knowledge on a topic should.
Intellectually, definitely. Though its component, its emotional component is extremely important. I don't think we should just see it kind of as some kind of pseudo-scientific process, but it's an often neglected thing which people like tend to completely forget because maybe they're not in the position to discuss that. Like maybe I can discuss the composition and the colors and the way that the School of Athens is the way its architecture is presented on the painting, and I think that experience and education on that would even make my experience of the beauty of the painting even greater. And Michelangelo was a genius because he was someone who intuitively and empirically could incorporate such massive amount of human experience. I would call it collect experience, whatever, history, philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah, so the merger between empirical and intuitive.
Yeah.
Is what you would define as genius. In very loose terms. We can okay, I'm sorry. We can't go into any further debate. Just before we continue, can I have everyone raise their hand for a moment in the participants tab just so I can see if everyone's buttons are working properly? Can everyone do that? Okay, Jelena, you're supposed to go to the participants tab and then click on the text that says raise hand. I see a lot of people have been clapping, which I did the first time around too, but it's much easier this way. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's working for everyone. I think Tanvir was next. You forgot your microphone again, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's right. The thing is, before me, the guy speaking, he was George, right? So yeah, he said something about universal critic. And something like, yes, my opinion could be much more valuable than my younger sister's. And so the opinion of a master painter will be much more valuable than my opinion. All right. So that's all I got from all his speech. The thing is, all right. So even if you want to generalize a universal critic who would decide either a painting or a thing is art or not, what you will do? Who will be the critic? In which sense? He said someone could be like some good painter who has a lot of experience in painting, have seen much more of a painting for years to years. So here's my question. So there are different genre of painting, all right. Which genre of painting will you choose? A guy from Renaissance painting, or a guy from modern painting, or a cartoonist who would just like to draw comics? Who will define or declare it's an art or not? So then they will have their owner like fight or debate on themselves, which either it's a painting or art or not. Yes, that could be a thing. This thing, my value is much more higher than other person's value, but that thing actually clearly leads towards something else. Because many countries, like most of the countries in this current world, are like full of democracy, that all we are equal, all our values are the same as ours. Even if we justify someone's value or someone's opinion over others, but so if you justify or announce something as universal critic, then there is, yes, if he says it's universal for everyone, then what's the problem with universal beauty, which we totally denied all along our debate, that yes, universal beauty can be exist, absolute beauty cannot be exist. It's much more of precision. And finally someone said that yes, there could be something that the world is much more over our liking. Yes, all right, the world is much more over our liking. Then it's according to who? Who is the judge that is saying that yes, this thing is good and it's over your liking? And you are saying yes, someone much more experienced at that field. In here you want to say it's painting. So who? There are tons of genres of painting. And even if you want to say today is like the Michelangelo, or is the best, he makes something and with something. But still, so why Michelangelo could be? Why not Raphael Sanzio? Why not Leonardo da Vinci? Why not Pablo Picasso? What is wrong with them? All right, so if you want to make the debate with this thing, there could be a universal critic for everything. So who do you make the universal critic? And are the universal critics themselves are not uncriticable? Like, are they pristine? Are they spotless? No. So if you really want to say something, that yes, this universal critic is possible, and my value and someone else's value in that field could be much more valuable than my own feeling, and that thing is leading towards a universal thing called beauty and universal beauty, then how? That's my question, because it doesn't answer all those questions of what will be the criteria and how would you justify that in all this common ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll just have to add my opinion on what you were talking about. You said, how can we say that someone's feeling is more valuable than someone else's feeling? Well, we're not. We're not comparing feelings. And that's something that Georgia said that I really liked. Of course, everything makes us feel a certain way, but there's also an intellectual, a cognitive component to deciding whether something is art or not. And that's when we're trying to decide not whether we like it, we're trying to decide whether it's art, whether it's something that a lot of people will like. When you're buying shoes, you look at them and you think, oh, those are nice shoes, I really like them. But you also send them to your friends and ask, hey, do you like the shoes? Because you're aware that some people may like different stuff. Now, this is a very crude example that doesn't really work very well, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. You said, what is the criteria
my question is like, this thing is this cognitive you're saying, the cognitive component which you are saying to be intellectual. So by intellectual, what do you define by that? And by defining an intellectual person, who do you mean? Because even I have seen many Renaissance painter criticizing modern painters very badly, very rudely. So do you want to say the modern painters are not that much intellectual because they paint in different genre? So how can you justify this thing, that this thing is quantitatively much more componentful and this thing is less?
You just asked us what is the criteria for art, and I feel really sorry about the fact that people didn't understand that. That's what I was asking people from the start. What is it? Give us your idea. If you don't believe there's any, then there isn't any. But I hope that there are people that believe that everything has not reasonable, but that every decision, every fact has foundation in reason and cognitive functions. That not everything has foundation is in how we feel. Because if it does, I mean, that's also an option. It's just not something I believe in. So give us, if you want, of course. I wouldn't hold you on much longer. There are other people. But if you want, give us your criteria for what's objectively art. Something, or you should probably start with your definition of art. And just give us, if you were the master critic, what would you look for to say something is art, if not your own feeling?
Yeah, the thing is, you wanna say, if I were a master critic, in which paintings I would say that these things are art and these paintings are not. And something George said, yeah, that's a painter could say. And that's the thing is, how do you, and there's the question again comes to what is art and how do you define an art? All right, let's make this thing much more simpler than all they're saying. All right, how do you say something, it's a master painting or not? If you are a judgmental critic, how would say that? How do you say that? All right. So
yes,
from
how do you tell us?
Yeah, how do you say that it's beautiful and it's not beautiful? What are the things?
So you believe no one can say something is not art or something is?
Yeah, if you see, there's a thing. That's the thing where it comes to aesthetics. When you see something and you feel it's beautiful, and you start to search reasons behind it. Why did you find it beautiful? Right. That's aesthetics. You see a painting and you are seeing those color compositions, those compositions, patterns, color choosing, those layers, those shades, and all those things. At first, that's what the aesthetics do. And for anyone's personal standards, it's somewhat different to other. And when you say, when I say
it's the only criteria for something is art if it's pretty to you, if it's beautiful to you. Is that what you're saying? I'm really struggling to understand.
Yeah, so you are struggling to understand that if it's art, if it's beautiful to me. Yeah, for me, if the thing is beautiful, if I think it's beautiful and masterpiece, and yeah, for me it's a masterpiece. But by this, I'm not justifying its masterpiece for everyone. I'm not saying it's beautiful for everyone.
No, I understood that completely. But the only thing you're looking at is if it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful or not. And the second thing I look at it, it's like, yeah, I basically think it's beautiful or not. That's how I think. I judge. And another thing is either it's showing any deep meanings or not. And the meanings, the messages these want to give me is beautiful or not, is much more meaningful or big or not. That's the thing I really want to say, or look at the painting. Yeah,
I think you were saying that from the start. I just couldn't really understand you. Sorry about that. Next up, Marzana. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, hello, thank you. So for me, everything is an art, and how we define that art, that's the beauty. We define art by beauty. So how much we're accepting an art or a work from a painter or a normal person, that's how we define the beauty. If you are liking it, that's a beauty for you. If you are not liking it, then it's not a beauty for you, but that's definitely an art. So I think everything is an art, but we just define the beauty. Art is defined by beauty, so that's all.
So a lot of people have decided to sort of combine art and beauty into a single term. Let's see who's next. Let me just see in the. I think. Shobda. Did I say that right? You can have the word next.
Sorry that I didn't read it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. Usrat then.
Okay. I had a question, and so Tanvi talked about how art is highly regarded or being a master critic. I had a question, and it was how does this critic weigh his opinion that this piece is going to be highly regarded? Art is supposed to invoke and stir emotions, right? Is this high value of art proportional to the value of emotion it provokes? That's my question. Should I repeat?
No, but I would like you to answer it. What do you think?
I think if we are taking the argument of art being subjective, then sure. I think if a piece of art is invoking or stirring emotions and in a high amount, in a high proportion, I think in that sense I would consider it to be a highly regarded piece of art.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah. So if a piece of art invokes if a piece of art invokes emotions that is in a big amount, then I think personally I would regard that piece of art as highly, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. So we heard. I think some people also mentioned it before that it's, and you said that pretty nicely. The proportional to the emotional reaction it causes. Let me see. Is Marzana raising her hand? If no, then I guess Georgia can go if Marzana is raising her hand on accident.
No, I have nothing to say. You can proceed.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure what came to my mind when I raised my hand, but I think what I wanted to address is the question of that I mentioned, the ultimate critic. I think it's something that simply because of the diversity of humans as a species cannot be embodied into a single. I guess you could say the universal critic would be like God in a way, in a traditional sense, as understood as the one who knows all and who is ultimately knowledgeable, ultimately good, which is also it's the relation to ethics, but I think it's much more complex topic that we don't have time to discuss. But I think that I think there is a reason why certain works of art, and I keep coming back to time and to the time that it has to pass for something to be admired as like a masterpiece. I think that there is a reason why throughout history we remember distinct works of art, and I think depending on the type of art we are discussing, the merits absolutely vary. But I think it's something. It does have to do with rules that you mentioned, but those are things that kind of remain as in the minds of the people who are discussing art throughout history. Those things remain as examples, and I think that in general there is a reason which none of us individually cannot completely comprehend, though we can try and work and educate. That's not, maybe not the right word, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think that only time will show what of the more, to us, bizarre contemporary art will be something that will be highly regarded. And I think that none of us, not even the most brilliant critic of today, can really be the one who to have the say, because it's art is made for all of us, and it's something that should be kind of in our universal consciousness of kind, decided through time. And I think that's not the problem with just, you know, contemporary art that we particularly find bizarre. Any art throughout history that kind of pushed some kind of boundaries had that at one point, had that, you know, not being totally understood and totally comprehended and captured in its time and in the time of the artist. So I think that's, you know, a really important thing. It's you know, collective. The decision is collective, and not collective as in today, the 7 billion people. Like, it's collective, like every, you know, human being that lived to experience, in a way, that form of art. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with most of what you said. I would like to use this opportunity, if no one minds, to give some of my own thinkings and I will use an example of music, of popular music, because I think that's what I'm most exposed to. That's what I think know the most about. To be honest, I don't think I could name more than 5 Michelangelo's works, so I don't see the point of myself talking about them. And I hope it's also close to you as well. I found that there are 3, and this is just going to sound like there's a theory that I strongly stand behind, that I made up, but I don't. It's just the way I was thinking. I think that for something to be truly art, it has to really check 3 of the boxes. And the first one is, obviously, it has to be appealing. And this is probably the most debatable one, because there are some musical works, for example, that are maybe not as kind to the ear as one would hope, and are still considered to be some of the most influential works of art in the history. But I do believe that it has to be beautiful. It has to be appealing. The second part that I don't think anyone talked about it, except for I think Georgia said that, or no, Tanvir maybe, I don't know who said about their friend's work being appraised by a professional painter. I can't remember. It was in the beginning of the conversation. But I believe that the second aspect of something being art is that it has to have a sense of masterfulness to it. Like, if it's a painting, it has to be incredibly, well, not incredibly, but you understand what I mean. It has to be done in a very virtuoso way. Like, it has to show that whoever painted it has a very deep understanding of techniques, of all the technicalities of producing art. And the third, I think, is the most important part of art is it's pretty much its meaning. It's pretty much the spiritual impact it has on the wider community it was created in, and the community that's going to look at it years after it's been created. And I think that there are certain examples that I can give of art that I personally don't find appealing. For example, I use this might be more a bit obscure to the more experienced members of the conversation, but I use the rapper Eminem. I hope everyone's familiar with him, which I think, as I said, checks the second box. He's an incredible artist, just in the technical ways of how, well, let's just say, good he is at what he does. And I also believe his works have actual significance to people that affect it and meaning, but I just don't find it very appealing. I don't find that I can easily listen to it. So I don't like his music. I don't like him as an artist. but I do admit that he's an artist, that what he does is art. So that's what I was trying to ask people. Is it really only what you like and what you don't like? Because I like a lot of things. For example, I like, let's not use examples, but what I'm trying to say is if we judge everything by how we relate to it in terms of whether we like it or not, it means that we have to abolish all ideas that there is an ideal that you should strive to, that something can't be better than something. Because if we just say everyone likes what they like, what that means that everyone can make what they like. There's no really point in trying to be better, because what you think is better might not be good for other people at all. So that's something I fear agreeing to, because if we do really agree that something is that everything is relative and there's no objective good or bad, then what's the point? I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about. I believe that as much as art is expression of one's emotions and state of mind, it should also be a craft. It should also be something that you should be good at and looking to get better at each day. So I have a question for Tanvir. Just answer me quickly. I don't remember. Was it you that said if my friend paints something and then I like it, and then a professional painter comes and said it's not really good, it means it's not art? Did you say that?
I think that, yeah.
Yeah. So does that mean that you also agree that if your friend had painted it better as in technically better, using the better choice of colors, better choice of brushes, better choice of I don't really know anything about painting.
Yeah,
so
Milos, yeah, I now totally get your idea. So you want to say something, yeah, there is saying something liking and admiring. And it's totally true that you cannot like something, but you can admire it. It's like, yeah, there's a kid in your class. He is so incredible, but for some interpersonal reasons, you hate him. Something like that, or much obvious like that. So this thing is so cool. I don't like it, but it's cool. It's very good. It's incredible, but I don't like it. So there is something called another, I think if we have to talk on this point, that will be a huge, double long conversation on it. Yeah, admiring something and not liking it. It's totally possible. And my friend, you are trying to say that thing. That if people say is everything people likes or people not, if that's everything, then what's the point of anything? But the thing is, yes, people like something, but there are a common ground where people tend to admire a common thing. If you say a people who speaks always truth, you may have or had hate him for your personal reasons, but still you admire him because he speaks the truth. Am I wrong in some point?
No. That's right. Totally exactly what I agree with. But I do have to ask you, so what do you admire that you that you don't like? Like you said, you can not like something and still admire it. I'm not looking for examples. I'm looking for what about something, because obviously you don't like an artwork. It's not really appealing to you, but you still admire it. What is it about that artwork that makes you admire it? What is the criteria for what makes them gain your admiration?
Yeah, I haven't been in this kind of situation there, but if I ever were there in that sort of situation, that thing could be like this. I admired the painting because of its color composition, its the style of style of drawing, its shadowing, and its everything. But I hated the painting because the message it wanted to send to us. It's very as simple as that. I admired the painting because of its painting style and color composition. I hated it because the message it sent towards us. I think it's not a thing that people should believe. As simple as that.
Okay, yeah, I get that. That's really good. So you admire how well it's crafted, how technicalities are just on point. Is that what you're trying to say? I think it's yeah.
Yeah.
Yelena wants to jump into conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to say that to admire something, you need to understand how much of hard work and time goes into a piece of artwork. Even though you don't like it, you understand how much time and hard work someone needed to put into a picture, a painting, a song, or whatever. So that's why you admire it, even though you don't like it, in my opinion.
Thank you. Does Shraddha want to say something? I see her hand is raised for a very long time. Is that on accident or is it? Can Shraddha hear me?
I really don't know. I'm not reading.
Oh, okay, okay. Let's see. So here's something. Let me just check some of the things I have written down. Georgia once said that, and this is probably to be the last question of the cafe. Georgia said that if everything is subjective, then objectivity, and this is what I understood, objectivity is basically taking what is universally liked, what the most people find subjectively appealing. So how do you guys feel about it? Is there really something to say about an artwork being so popular? For example, everyone knows what Mona Lisa is. Everyone knows what it is, and everyone thinks it's a great picture. A great painting. But then also, for example, Gangnam Style has, as of now, 3.6 billion views on YouTube. Does it also qualify as art, or potentially the best piece of musical art in the world? Can we hear any thoughts on the relation between popularity of a work and its quality, and whether there is any? Let's see who has their hand up. Jovana?
Thank you for the words. Well, I think I mentioned this even before Georgia mentioned that, but I think that objectivity doesn't exist. Like I said even before him that actually objectivity is what's widely accepted. For example, when like if there is 10 people and 8 of them have one opinion or one liking, and 2 of them do not, that the thing that the 8 people think will be taken as an objective truth. Same now, it's pretty like banal example, but it can be used on the whole Earth population or something like that. So what's the biggest problem, and why does Gangnam Style and like, I don't know, modern things are so popular nowadays? That's like, popularity does not have to mean art, because not of us, and that was previously mentioned, not of us are qualified enough to talk about what's art. That's, for example, if I don't know, here is another stupid example. If like people said, if you ask someone who is not educated what's 2 plus 2, and he would say, I don't know, 5 or something like that, and then his whole class would say 5, and then that would be truth for them, but it's not true. Like there are people who know, who established that rule, that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But then if you
I must interrupt you.
Yes.
I have to disagree with the fact that someone established that 2 plus 2 is 4. No matter what someone says, you can just abolish everything anyone has ever said, and if you put 2 apples next to another 2 apples, you'll count 4. And that's not the case in art. So that's what we're trying to figure out. It's not because mathematicians said that 2 plus 2 is 4 is because we can actually physically measure and perceive how much 2 plus 2 is. So I think that's an example that works in art, because in art, what Georgia was saying, he's saying that there are artists that are so enormously experienced, so much more experienced than us, especially us young people, that would know what art is. Which is like saying there are some superb mathematicians that would know how much 2 plus 2 is, which is not true. We all know how much 2, and we can all check it. What I was trying to get out of this conversation is for you to give me tools on how to check what is art, in the same way I would check how much 2 plus 2 is. And I was hoping, I mean, I agree with everything you said up to that point, that there is no really ultimately objective way to measure what is art, but that doesn't mean we should stop looking for it. We may never reach complete and absolute objectivity, but maybe we will find out more about art than ourselves if we look for it. You can continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you said, but like it would be easier for me to discuss this if I had the education of, like, I don't know, of those supreme artists or something like that, or even supreme mathematicians, because as far as I know, there are like a bunch of theories which could, like, I don't know, change the concept of mathematics. For example, I don't know, the theory of strings and things like that. When there is multiple parallel lines, like we've learned that there is just one line that can be that just one line can go through 2 dots, but like there are new theories which tell us that there are like that infinite number of lines can go through 2 dots. That's like, I don't know, some theories. I'm not a mathematician, so I can't really explain it, but I know that exists. So that's why I say that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 can also be brought up for debate. Like we don't. That's why like concluding by our reason, by our experience, actually. Not reason is the other thing. We conclude by our experience. We know, like you said, 2 apples and 2 apples is equal 4, but we need to, like, separate our reason from it to I don't know, like, we are accustomed to work in the conditions we are given, and that's I don't know, conformism.
I must say that sounds like a very scary way to live your life. If you don't even know what 2 plus 2 is and you're always unsure about what it all means. I like having some uncertainties, even if they are unreasonable, or certainties.
That's true, but even though I don't really care about it. Like, it's not scary way because I don't care about it. If you ask me about it, I'll tell you. That's like, I don't know, the problem with hunger in the world or something like that. I don't really, it's really stressing. In fact, I thought about it for a whole day or something like that. Maybe I would go crazy, but I just don't care about it now, so it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, let's try not to stray off the topic too much.
True.
So you believe that there is absolutely no objectivity, that nothing can be inferred about art from experience and reason, that absolutely everything is up for debate?
Yes, and I think that it's up to us whose opinion we will take as an objective one. Then we have, and usually those are educated people who have accumulated their knowledge through talking with numerous people or reading numerous books or gathering numerous pieces of information. So experience, yes, and that's perceived as, and we can't simply say that anything else. I mean, we can say, but I want to say, in my opinion, that's objectivism in today's world. That's perceived as objectivism.
Okay, so that's as close to objective as you can get.
Yes, that's my opinion.
Thank you. Yelena wants to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that when it comes to objectivity, when we're talking about the beauty, I think that's something that came with the new age, because today we will say that something is beautiful just because we connect it with success, money, and high standards of living. That's how I look at it. For example, I don't know much about cars, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would say that, for example, Audi cars are much more beautiful than I don't know, some lower class cars. So that's where I stand on it. Objective beauty exists now in modern age just because we connect it to something other, not because we think that a certain thing is beautiful in our eyes.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. In fact, Darwin also believed that we found. It's an example he used that well-crafted stones. If you were lived in the prehistoric times, and you were a female looking to mate, to reproduce, and you found a person that made extremely well-polished stone axes, you would like that. You would find the stone axes pretty when in fact you just believe that the person who made them is probably a very good partner for life together. Which is not entirely exactly what you said, but you did say that we don't look at just the beauty, we look at also whatever comes with it, like price and whatnot. I'll see. I don't see any new hands being raised. Do any of our more experienced teachers would like to chime in before we reach our time limit? Yes, of course, Salim.
Yes, I have a question.
I think your microphone is muted. I'm sorry.
Is it okay?
Yeah, all good now.
Okay. So my question is to you, that is, you talked about the appealing and incredible and spiritual aspect of artwork. So how could you relate beauty with a normal artwork and an artistic artwork?
Can you repeat the question? How can I relate? What?
Relate with a normal artwork and an artistic artwork.
Well, the difference between just artwork and artwork that I think is art in its most deepest meaning is, I think, what I said, that it has to be very well done, very well executed. It has to be done in a very virtuoso manner. That's the word I read online. And it also has to provoke feelings. It has to provoke meaning. It has to influence people that see it or read it. They're exposed to it. And it also has to be beautiful. And I think there are a lot of things that I like personally that don't really do all of those three things. I can give examples on popular music, but I don't think that would be very useful to other people. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I just think they're objective. I just think those are the three. And I was looking for expanding that list with other people's opinions. I was just trying to see what other people think art should do, what the art should be like. And I think that those are the three. It should be well done, well crafted. It should be easy on the eye, let's say, and it should have significance to the people and how they think and feel. That's all.
So do you think that this is relative, because it depends, artwork which you may think that appealing, I may not.
Yeah, that's true. But there's also so yeah, what you're saying is me and you might have the same criteria for whether something is art, the exact same criteria, and we might still disagree. That's true. But I think, for example, let me give you the painting, The Scream, for example, which is widely considered as very good art. So by that, it means art itself. But I don't really find it. I think some sort of beauty might be accomplished in it, but it just doesn't. Personally, it doesn't strike the right nerve with me. Let's just say it like that. But I get what you're saying. It's that even putting beauty as a measure of something is very questionable, because as we all said, beauty is extremely subjective. But yeah, there is a chance that you and me might disagree heavily on whether something is art or not, based on what we think is beautiful and what is not.
Yeah, okay. Anybody could give further opinion on that from the students? Pamida, Usrat?
Sir, I have nothing else to say because I do agree with what Milos said. So
Yeah, okay, then Nikita, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and no, not by now. I don't have anything else extra to add.
Thank you, thank you.
I would really much like to hear from my own teacher and my own guide.
I just want to add something about the truth, because I think we didn't talk much about the connection between beauty and truth. For me, as some of you already know, there is no art without some kind of appearance of truth. Artwork is unique, and it is worth because there is truth in it. It is always showing some kind of truth. That's why we can recognize truth in nature, because it's beautiful, and that beauty is some kind of sense. It is showing something to us, and we can recognize it in great works of art. That's all what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yes, that's also something we forgot completely to mention, and it's completely true, because if we look at all the artworks that are have been appreciated since the beginning of time, they all still have the same meaning today, that they all impact us the same amount that they did back when they were created, which just means that they had some sort of universal, all-timely truth to it that doesn't expire as time does.
Yes.
Do we have any more? We are short on time, but if we do have any closing thoughts by anyone, this will be the time to hear them.
I just want to say that I'm really amazed how all of you were talking, and that I hope that we will meet very soon again with some interesting topics.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to thank everyone who donated their time today. I think I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know I did. I heard a lot of interesting, and what's most important, completely different and opposite opinions, and I think that's what I came here for, and that's what I got. So I hope we meet in the future, hopefully through another philosophy cafe. If not, then in person, I guess. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.